Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media and APC Technologies. We are at the Cigre 2023 Grid of the Future Symposium. And these interviews are with the leaders at Cigre and the leaders of the industry. Hope you enjoy. My next guest is Michael Heyeck. High expectations, Michael.
Yes.
Okay. You are a sole proprietor now of your own consulting group, but before that you were with AEP for years, and we're going to talk a lot about that. But first of all, you're an engineer?
Yes.
Why? How did you get into the industry? How did you decide to become an engineer? And is it double E?
Yes.
Okay, again, why did you decide? Because back in the day, it wasn't the sexiest thing to do, but you got involved in it. Talk about when did you get a love for it?
Well, it was a sexy thing to do. Because I was born during the space, putting a man on the moon.
Okay.
And that got me involved with engineering. And I wanted to be in teaching, but my mother said, no, you should be involved with engineering. Okay. I like math and science and stuff like that. But
that's a smart woman.
Power engineering is electricity, utility work. That's public service.
Okay.
So I'm glad I stepped into electrical engineering and into the utility business.
Well, have you been were you with AEP your entire career, or did you move around? Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do for AEP? What did you do when you started? What did you do when you left?
I was involved with transmission planning, and then I got involved with putting a budget system in because I got an MBA as well. Was a budget director for AEP, then got into transmission operations, and then I headed up transmission.
Okay. Which is a significant problem today. And I don't go, it's a significant solution, but it's also a significant transmission. The grid today is, if I were to describe the problems, and you're going to get to pick wherever you want to focus on, but you're not allowed to pick transmission because you know too much about it. We're asking more of the grid today than we ever have. The grid of the future has to be a hardened grid, but it needs to be a modern grid, and it needs to be a flexible grid, and it needs to be resilient, and it needs to be reliable. And oh, by the way, we need to solve the problems of diversification, decarbonization, digitalization, fix the world, because we're now going to be an electrified world. That's really what we're facing now. That there's more change, I think, in the last 5 years than in the last 100 years. We've gone from a fairly growth-oriented but static to now rapidly changing everywhere. A lot of great challenges on it. Without going to transmission, pick an area and tell me what you think one of our biggest challenges is for engineers today.
Isn't it exciting? I'm hoping we get more engineers coming in.
Yeah.
Because the energy transition is exciting.
It is.
And we can focus on renewables and transmission, but everybody talks about that space. I'm going to talk about distribution.
Okay.
Distribution gets to the last dime and donut. The reason is if I'm going to invest $1, I'll invest it in transmission because I got one regulator. For distribution, I got 50. And it's 150 basis points less than transmission. We need to transform distribution, and the regulators in the states really need to make sure that they're funding the transmission. That makes the utilities talk to the regulators and educate and inform them as to what we need to do with respect to distribution. All this electric vehicle charging, the distribution system's not ready for it.
No.
In mass proportion. So we got to transform distribution. So I'll probably be the only person talking about that.
Well, it happens to me, my love. Distribution is how I was retired as the president of the Electric Power Reliability Alliance. We focused on distribution, heavily focused on distribution. And we believe, kind of like what you believe, you got 50 regulators, but you also have 50 problems. Everybody doing it a different way. People trying to say, do my thing. So technology companies in saying it was proprietary, and it doesn't fit. It's like this, and my thing doesn't fit with this thing. So we've got a lot of misfit in the distribution systems out there. Now we're trying to bury cables everywhere because nobody wants an overhead cable in their neighborhood because it'll cause a fire and burn houses down California. I mean, we've got a lot of things that are going on at the distribution and that we haven't had before. As much as Generation is now at the distribution end, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Given that, you've just mentioned one of the problems is you've got 50 different regulators on distribution, but there is not going to be one size fits all. So if you were talking to a utility and you were talking to them, I'm sure you do in your consulting role, but as you talk to them about how do they bring about the best, most reliable, most flexible, how do they build it today for the future? What are the things they should be looking at?
Well, from a regulator's perspective,
Okay.
electricity is becoming unaffordable. So affordability is very important. It's the challenge of the engineer, the utility executive, to talk to the regulator about how they can improve distribution in order to save money. Just saw a presentation on distribution automation, and you could see the opportunities to save money with respect to making sure that the load duration curves are in the right order. Right now, the load factor on the grid is probably the worst it's ever been, probably around 50%, where you could take opportunities to utilize that load factor that's inefficient and spread out the load. And you could do that at the distribution level, given you have distribution, you have DERs, distributed energy resources. You plug in your car, you got a battery right there. There are opportunities where the electric utility can inform the utility regulators on how they could save money and keep electricity affordable.
A lot of the distribution in this country is with the co-ops and munis, and so there's a different level of regulation even for them. And there's a kind of an insular approach. I know that NRECA is really doing a lot of work to bring in some concepts and ideas that help at the rural, because the rural electric is no longer rural.
Right.
I mean, I'm a member of one in Marietta, Georgia. When it was started, it was a small rural thing. Well, it is now 1.5 million population. It's right at the city of Atlanta, and different complexities than Georgia Power had, right? Georgia provides them. Talk about that a little bit at the distribution level, because it's a different level of regulation.
Well, I'm an elected official in Ohio. Been on Westerville, Ohio City Council.
I know it. I love Westerville.
Yeah, for 30 years.
Yeah.
We're a municipal electric system.
Okay.
And guess what we did on Saturday? We talked about rates.
I thought you were going to say golf. We did talk
On
about
Saturday, we talked about rates.
Right.
Talked about golf, but we talked about rates and how we can keep rates affordable, not just at the energy level, but at the distribution level. And I know NRECA, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, and the American Public Power Association, they are great venues to bring in the experts to actually make sure the membership actually has the what's going on in the industry. And at the municipal electric power level, it's easier than with a regulator. Basically, you have a city council. That's your rate-making body. You don't have to go to a regulator. On the other hand, it could become very politicized.
Yeah, very much.
So here's an example. Energy. Do we go for renewables or do we go for blocks of energy? And I maintain that we are going for blocks of energy because cost is the most important. And in those blocks of energy are already renewables, and they're growing. So we got to be very careful on how we approach not only our energy business or brokering, but also on the distribution automation level. So we're introducing distribution automation in our 16,000 meter city, and trying to peak shave so that we don't get the capacity charges in the PJM market.
Mm.
And it's nice. It's interesting. You don't have a regulator. You have a legislative body called the city council, and the electric utility manager could actually drive that experimentation and then keep costs down a lot more effectively than large utilities sometimes,
Yeah.
especially a multi-state utility.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, the headaches that you avoid by being a municipality type self-regulating, self-rate setting is amazing. But in that, when you're looking at that, and let's just say 10 years from now, 20% of your former ratepayers, now consumers, become prosumers. That's going to change a lot of what you have to do, because now as a prosumer, they want to sell you power only when they want to sell it to you, and then they're going to buy power when they need it, right? So you've got the problem of having it go to it. How are you handling that approach? Or are you even thinking about that approach? Is it just you got a couple of geeks out there? Westerville's a very kind of forward-thinking community, right, outside of Columbus, and it's going to happen there. You're going to get a bunch of EV adoption, and you're going to have solar panels on the roof, and some guy will put a wind farm in his backyard, or at least one of them. How are you going to handle your ratepayers moving to prosumers?
That's a great question, because do we handle it as an aggregate of 16,000 meters, or do we handle it at the meter level? And right now it's a hybrid.
Okay.
We try to avoid the capacity charges by peak shavings.
Right.
And we provide opportunities, the Nest thermostat, going into the thermostats and reducing the load. Also providing subsidy if a commercial building changes out their LED or changes out their lighting for HVAC, but also puts in solar panels. If they provide us the opportunity, us being the municipal electric system, to actually gate their load of their demand, you can see how we can peak shave in that environment. The same goes for EV charging. If we are allowed to get to the EV charger and say, not now, or now's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
So it is going to be at the device level. The issue is going to be when they become prosumers, how do we interact with their actions in that? I think we're at the leading edge, and it's really not a big leap to go from proactive at the aggregate level and then reactive at the prosumer level. I don't think it's a leap for us.
Well, it's good. Excellent. Last question I've got for you. Cigre. What's the value of Cigre to you personally, and what was the value in your career?
Cigre is a lot like sitting at a table filled with experts. And the United States is not the only expert in the world. So you find out what they are doing in other countries. Thailand rebuilt their transmission grid, for example. What is the UK doing with respect to charging in that? How about Italy? What's Greece doing? You're sitting at the table with experts, beginning to talk and trade information, and that knowledge exchange is really what Cigre is all about. The tagline is for power system expertise, but imagine you're sitting at the table with experts from around the world in any space that you're in. So from a career perspective, if you're transmission or distribution and you want to know what's going on in the UK or in Italy or in Australia, you likely know somebody that you could talk to. You also know the information through eCigre, our searchable site, if you go to technical brochures, to figure out what's distribution automation like in Melbourne in Australia, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a knowledge exchange, and it's also a career development perspective. Now, I've been fortunate that I was the U.S. National Committee President from 2010 to 2016. I'm now the Cigre Treasurer in Paris. I don't reside in Paris.
We got in Westerville, almost Paris.
We got through COVID, and we're doing quite well. with respect to our marketing and branding campaign. We just got approved a strategic plan to grow our membership and to evolve our technical base to deal with the energy transition.
So one of the things that we will be doing as we do these Cigre things is to be able, you talked about marketing and grow the membership. There was a sense, I don't think it's true, but there was a sense that, hey, IEEE and Cigre, they're kind of moving. IEEE is trying to be more world dominant, and Cigre is trying to, because the U.S. is growing, but in truth, they play different roles. Everybody I say that to gives me the yow. How do they play different roles? That's a setup.
Cigre was born in 1921 out of the IEC, which was a standards body. And Cigre became a technical collaboration to help develop standards for the IEC. IEEE is a standards body.
Man.
IEEE is worldwide. Cigre is worldwide. I see them as complementary. And it's, I don't like to call them competitors. I really like to see them as complementary. IEEE does have an academic side in their standards development as well as the industry side. Cigre tends to be more of the industry side with policymakers and decision makers at that technical level. So I see them as hand in glove.
Yeah. Excellent. I think there's a memorandum of understanding that has just been signed between the two organizations, because standards and that's Cigre to me is knowledge of practical application. These are the people that actually put the power into the homes and into the factories and make the world run. So it's a good collaboration. It'll be,
Two heads are better than one.
much better than.
So if I'm looking at distribution automation, I got IEEE, I got Cigre.
Right.
And I got a lot of opportunity, not only in career development, but also in technology advancement.
Well, we've talked about doing this at Cigre Paris. I'm sure you'll be there, right? Yeah. We've talked about, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to Cigre Paris to do this. And I'm not sure it just wouldn't be another replay of the Cigre US, because we'd probably end up interviewing many more U.S. Leadership from Cigre there. But appreciate you doing this. Thank you for doing the interview, and good luck.
Thank you.